Thanks for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News. Our guests today are Heather and Edward from the Miami-Dade Parks, Recreation and Open Spaces. And I got to tell you, we love when you say open spaces, all right? Because it gives all of us this extra good feeling. And words do matter, all right? I'm not a wordsmith, but my father sure was, all right? And there are lots of people that are, so that words matter. Now, my brother Grant was out over the weekend to the opening of the People's Dock, and he was out there. He did a video the other day, which we're now sharing with everybody. And people are out and enjoying themselves. And so today, why don't we talk about what's going on in the department and why it's so important for us to pay attention to our coastlines and to the beaches and our parks area. So, Heather, let's take it away.
So I have a question for you. My question for you is how long, but imagine we didn't live in Miami-Dade County. Imagine you lived in the center of the state of Florida. And how long do you think it would take you to get from the center of state of Florida to a beach?
A couple hours, no?
Actually, we are all connected here in Miami-Dade County and throughout the state of Florida to our coastlines. It would take you maximum 90 minutes, a 90-mile drive to get from the center of the state of Florida to a beach. So it's important to realize how we're connected to the coastline and why it's important for our coastlines to stay healthy. And here in Miami-Dade County, we've done that. Our current administration, through our current administration, we have our first Chief Bay Officer, and we've also released the Biscayne Bay Report Card on Earth Day, really outlining the health of the bay. So we're taking it a step further now and recognizing how important vital, healthy coastlines are to our county. And so that's why we're here today, to really bring that focus, talk about the role that parks play in that, and give you guys a little education on our coastlines and introduce you to some critters. So,
okay. So Edward, so we have some little critters here. And I know at some point or another we're going to talk about it. And if you, by the way, there's a little pump that's keeping these fellows oxygenated. All right. So if you hear that, that's what it is. All right. Let's see. That was free. All right. So let's talk about some of the issues that are facing all of us as Dade County residents and throughout the state and actually throughout the country.
Yeah, so again, thanks for having us, Michael. So again, we have our animals, our critters here, and they all depend, just like we do, on a healthy Biscayne Bay, a healthy marine environment. And so we do have a lot of threats, unfortunately, facing not just us here in Miami-Dade County, but around the world. And some of those global issues include climate change, marine debris, and we have issues such as pollution in our bay, not just from marine debris, plastics, but also from chemicals, fertilizers, and unfortunately sewage runoff and stormwater that is running into our bay and destroying our habitats.
So let's talk about, if we could, let's get to the things that people look at and go, oh, that's terrible. You have a jar full of plastics. And
so, yeah.
Tell us how that takes over the bay, the oceans, and our shorelines.
Right. So this is a jar of microplastics, and this was literally picked up maybe 20 or 30 minute time period off of Crandon Park Beach. And what people don't understand is when you do a beach cleanup and you're looking for large pieces of marine debris, yes, that's important and that's impactful to the environment. But what really is harmful are these smaller pieces, or these microplastics. And why they're so dangerous is because over time, larger pieces of plastic have broken down into these very small, teeny pieces of plastic. And the marine life, such as shorebirds, small turtle hatchlings, look at this and feed on this, and it causes digestion issues and can block their intestines and or even make them feel full, and that causes them to die. So lots of times when people are on the beaches, they look at the beaches, especially in our Miami-Dade County parks that maintain our beaches, and they're like, wow, this beach is clean. And our job is to have people look a little bit closer and really look in the sand and start looking for these little pieces of microplastics. And then they realize, yeah, at first glance, the beach is clean and beautiful, but when you really take a closer look, there's lots of debris out there that we need to clean off of our beaches and make sure that the health of our coastlines are maintained.
So, Edward, when we're walking along the beach and we look, as you were saying, Heather, we look down, it looks clean. Well, first of all, we're 5 feet away. Second, we're like 100 to 250 pounds, all right? And that to us may do very little, but to a creature that's only this big, all right, that weighs like one of these guys weighs, I don't know, not very much. Them nibbling on that is going to cause them a lot of damage versus if we were to do the same.
Exactly. And so, with this marine debris, Heather's talking about how it breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. And, as you said, these, not even just these guys, but, even the base of our food chain. So the marine food chain, really. So, you have tiny little plankton that are consuming this plastic that's been found throughout the world, even the deepest part of the ocean, at the surface. Every location around the world, this microplastic has invaded. And so, it's starting at that little tiny level and it's bioaccumulating, meaning it's actually making its way up the food chain. And that's when it turns into a human health problem, because we have, we're consuming the seafood that is feeding upon these other organisms that are consuming
That's a good tie into that. So one of the things we know that we're in the news sharing and content creation and marketing business is when we see shocking footage of the base of the ocean or the coastlines filled with all that stuff, that can help us make a change. If we're only seeing little bits, that's not enough. We need to be able to shock people and say, look, here are the bags of garbage that were collected, last weekend. And so I hope that the county can create images that will help us create some changes. So before we get on to the critters, what are some basic things, Heather, that people can do so they can control how much this plastic, all right, winds up on our beaches?
Sure. And just to add on that picture you were building about littered shorelines, it's important for everyone to realize that our beaches in Miami-Dade County are a major economic driver. So we want beautiful, clean, pristine beaches because that's bringing us money, that's bringing us jobs. So it's really important to have the big picture. Not only is it important for clean coastlines for our natural environment and the native plants and animals that live there, but it's also important for our livelihoods here in Miami-Dade County. As to what people can do, there is a wide variety of things people can do. A lot of times, I think the big mistake is, we try and educate people on, the harm that is happening to our environment, and we make the plea, and it sounds that it's so urgent and it has to be done now, and people sort of feel hopeless with that type of message. But in reality, if everyone committed to one small behavioral change or one act of green, and everyone committed, it would make a world of difference. So a lot of those things are refusing plastics, refusing single-use plastics, refusing to purchase single-use plastics, refusing plastic bags and bringing your own to the grocery store, drinking water from the tap and reusing refillable items or refillable containers is always a help. You can research ways that you can lower your carbon footprint. That's always a help to our coastlines. Walking when possible, riding bike when possible, utilizing public transportation when possible. So just small acts. Lots of people think, I have to jump and invest in solar in order to make a difference. And that's really not true. You can make small behavioral changes, and that makes a big impact.
Maybe 10 years ago, maybe it was more than that, when the county started running ads, change your toilet. And I think a lot of people have done that, right? And before it was like, well, why would you even consider doing that? But now we understand the impact that some of those things could have. You might remember way back, a year ago, way back, and there were pictures of Biscayne Bay and how pristine it was because there were no boats in the water. There was no traffic. It's like cars, all right, except for it's the ocean, the water's that. And what a great ad that's going to be, taking that here with no use, and here it's a year later with plenty of use. And that pollution causes lots of changes to our environment. So hopefully there's a solution to that. So can we talk about these little critters?
We sure can. So today we've got some organisms that, we wanted to represent, what you would find off of our coastal waters, what you would find in Biscayne Bay. And again, these are organisms that, from an everyday perspective, we don't understand their importance, but they're really serving a role in that ecosystem. They're helping keep it clean. They're helping, again, with filtering of the water. And it's all part of that greater food chain. So we do have some organisms that we'd find here in the seagrass beds. So I'll start off with a couple of our spiny little critters.
And show it to the camera, please.
So these are sea urchins. I have two in here. So these guys, you can see those spines there. So they're not too sharp. I can hold it like this, but they use that for defense. And they actually have
Get the other
Yeah,
one,
you can
and
get
I'll
the other
hold
one
this
out. Okay, so we've got two here. So that one's called a variegated sea urchin. Variegated coming from, they're actually coming in a lot of different colors, so varied colors. So that one there is kind of that purplish. This one's called a pencil sea urchin, so you can kind of tell where it gets that name. And these two, again, are native to Biscayne Bay and off of our coastal waters. And they just crawl along the sea floor, and they're feeding on algae. They're kind of like recycling through the environment and helping to keep it clean.
And how far offshore do they live?
So you can find these, again, right here in Biscayne Bay, right off of the coast of our city, as well as, again, they live in that seagrass bed. So those seagrass beds can only really grow in shallow water. They need that sunlight to penetrate the water column in order to photosynthesize, just like the grass in your yard. So we're really finding that in that coastal environment.
How deep is that?
How deep? So it's probably like at most, like Biscayne Bay, 5 to 6 feet at the most. Same with right offshore. So out of Crandon Park, we see really healthy seagrass beds, and we find these organisms which came straight from there.
And we don't want to step on those.
We don't want to step on these. We always recommend, when folks are out there to do their shuffle, the stingray shuffle, and you don't want to step on these. I can hold this, but when you put that foot down, that would not feel good.
Stingray / urchin shuffle.
/urchin shuffle, yeah. So again, these guys are also food sources for, we have our sea turtle species here on the table. And so they're feeding on these urchins as well.
And how old are those?
These are just, probably a year or so old. They don't live long lives, but again, they're reproducing pretty pretty rapidly.
They're full grown.
Yes. And then this one here. So this one is our sea cucumber.
Sweet potato.
A sweet potato is a good way to put it. A lot of people make some other, comments on what it looks like, but this is a sea cucumber. It's a very simple organism, no eyes, no ears. It's got a mouth and a butt, and so it basically crawls along the bottom, and it feeds on, again, that stuff that's on the bottom that's like algae, what we call detritus, which is like dead and decaying things, and so it is acting as like a vacuum cleaner. And so again, these guys are really important to the health of that ecosystem. They're living in that seagrass environment. You can see it kind of has this darker color. It kind of camouflages itself in that sediment. What's really interesting about this organism, when it feels threatened, it can actually what we call eviscerate, meaning it can basically just throw up its intestines, and that helps with its defense, and it can regrow that. So it really has some interesting qualities about it.
They can throw up their intestines, not the contents, but the intestines.
But the entire organ.
Sort of like a chameleon and tegos, they could drop off there, and geckos.
Yeah, and so these guys are all in that same family of, I mentioned, echinoderms. So similar to this sea star here. And we all know, sea stars can regenerate their arms.
Let me correct myself. Like the geckos and chameleons can throw off their tail.
Yes, their tails. Correct. Okay. They can regrow a tail.
Okay.
And so the sea star can regrow its arm. These guys can regrow that intestinal.
Say that again.
So
can they throw off their arm?
They can. Yeah. I mean, usually they can't really like toss it off. But if an organism takes a bite out of it, or something happens, it gets caught in something, gets ripped off, they are able to. And you can see the similarities Heather's pointing out right here. So this is a sea biscuit, also a echinoderm. So it's similar. You can see it's similar to that urchin in the sense of its shape. It doesn't really have those spines. When it's alive, it's kind of a brown color. And again, this what we call a pentalateral symmetry. So it's got that 5.
And this is part of the EcoAdventures, part of the county.
This is
teach them all about this.
Exactly. If you want to learn all about these organisms, come out with us on one of our programs. We go out into these seagrass beds, these habitats where these animals live, and we show you guys these organisms, and we show you them in their ecosystem. It's kind of hard to picture them in this little container here, but out in the seagrass beds helping to revitalize their ecosystem. We do kayaking. We go out on, we have a boat that we take people out on to teach them about these ecosystems, as well as how it's integral to our city. And so we have opportunities for folks to get out into nature and to learn about these species and to learn about how important they are to our daily lives.
We have clear kayaks too, where you can go over the seagrass beds and have the opportunity to see these animals right beneath you on your kayak.
Yeah,
so
pretty amazing.
With EcoAdventures, would people have an opportunity to touch these guys?
We have a nature center, so we take them to the nature center, show them these organisms, and then again, when we're out in the environment, we don't like to disturb these animals when they're in their natural ecosystem. But we have all of these came from our Crandon Park Nature Center, located on the north end of Crandon Park. So we have opportunities to see them in our touch tanks, and we can touch them there and kind of do a handling session there.
And we do on-site and virtual presentation utilizing our touch tank creatures as well. So we have opportunities where we can come to a classroom or do a school group presentation, and there is a touch tank component.
So we're also delighted that COVID's going away. By the way, most of us have had our shots. All right, and we're delighted we're not wearing our masks today. All right. So you haven't had. Tell us about the classes you've had and what it looks going forward.
So, when the pandemic first started, we pivoted what we normally would do, and we started offering a lot of virtual classes and online classes, and really amped up our social media to stay relevant through the pandemic and keep people connected to nature. But we have now, since July, actually been doing in-person public programs on a limited capacity following CDC guidelines, masks when we're in close contact. Once we launch, are doing a active activity, masks can come off, social distancing, sanitizing the equipment, and keeping our group numbers and our participant numbers low for a safe environment. Now we've slowly increased our capacities because as guidelines change, we look at our program offerings and we change our guidelines to match with what's being recommended through the CDC. And we are starting to offer more group-based programs and coming out into the community a little bit more and having more large groups. So that's exciting for us to be able to start that up again.
And I would just piggyback off that and say that we're not just doing these educational lessons. There's also opportunities to volunteer.
Yes.
And we're trying to engage our citizens in these topics that they can help solve these issues and help address them locally. So we do have a local citizen engagement volunteer opportunity to do marine debris citizen science.
So speaking of that, when is your next beach cleanup?
So we actually have one coming up this Saturday at Crandon Park. It's our monthly.
How about that?
There you go. Good timing on that one. So with our citizen science program, we do it every second Saturday at Crandon Park, again, with the capacity guidelines. And so we have opportunities to get out, not just to do that beach cleanup, but we actually look at, and as Heather said, get a close-up idea of what is actually washing up. Again, it's this microplastics, but there's a whole variety of other things that we see on a regular basis. So what we're trying to do is quantify and get a better picture of what is coming up, how seasonally, what are the changes in that, and we're informing our local policy and action. So we're working with a nonprofit, a local nonprofit that works on the marine debris issue locally, Debris Free Oceans. And so we're able to contribute that data that our citizen science volunteers like you can come out and collect that data. And then that's helping to get a better idea of this issue and address it locally with action and policy.
Both of you are very passionate about this. So
how can you tell?
So Heather, let's start with you. When did you recognize that?
So I recognized my passion for the ocean at a very young age. I actually am a Miami native, born and raised here in the 305. So I was always going to the beach as a young girl, as a child, especially our beaches. One of my favorite beaches to go to actually was Matheson Hammock, or it still is, the Atoll Pool at Matheson Hammock. So my dad would take me out there quite often. And I'd always look and try and catch critters in the seagrass beds. So with parks, that's one of my first memories, going to Matheson and also Tropical, because Tropical used to go swimming in the lake. So my dad would take me there too as well. But I realized that I was really into the ocean when I took a trip to SeaWorld, and I was at a presentation, and a trainer was doing a presentation on working with marine mammals. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, I want to do what that lady does. I need to know how she got to where she is. And my mom encouraged me to ask her. So I asked her, and I think from 10 on, I was dead set that I was going to get my degree in marine biology. And that's what my degree's in, marine biology. And I've been doing what I love and talking about what I love ever since. So I'm very lucky.
What a great story.
Good story.
Edward, okay. Why this? Out of all the things that one could do, why did you choose this?
So very similar path. I mean, I grew up outside. I, was born here in Miami, 305 native, but spent some time growing up in Jupiter, Florida, so just up the road. And, that whole natural area, always being out, in the woods, out on the water. I spent a lot of time as a kid fishing with my dad, being out on that boat, just, the two of us, and taking in that marine environment, from not just having an appreciation for, this grand ecosystem that's around us, but also, how much it's changing. And, in the short time that I've been alive, how much different it looks out there in that ocean. And so if I can just be a voice for, all those, organisms, all those critters, that entire ecosystem, just trying to share that with not just the citizens in Miami-Dade County, but that next generation.
So you can imagine that some of these young people that go out with you, that one of them is going to go, mommy, how can I do what that lady is doing? So now that's you.
I hope so. If that's what happens when somebody comes on one of our adventures or one of our programs, and I inspire somebody to do what I do, that's a good day for me.
That's terrific. I grew up with animals, and my dad would foster that, especially when my mother was out of town. He'd take us and let us bring all the critters home. So we had a great time with that. Let's talk about how pollution of this type and other types of pollution really affect the animals in the water and the animals on land. Edward?
So I mean, again, as we mentioned, a lot of with the marine debris, it's not people throwing that out into the ocean. It's coming from land-based sources. So really, it's litter on the side of the road that goes into a storm drain. It's also coming from landfills, things like that. And so a lot of that marine debris is actually starting off on land, and it's affecting the wildlife on land. So we talk about all these marine organisms, but there's a number of organisms that are in part of that terrestrial or land-based food system, that food web, that are coming into contact with this stuff. And again, we have, this is an issue that's being that's affecting everyone across the country. If you live in Nebraska, that marine debris, that plastic, whatever is being produced in that state, is finding its way to the ocean. So again, it's not just marine debris. It's not just a ocean issue. It's a global issue that's affecting every ecosystem and every person. And every person is able to make that change and make that difference towards this topic.
So lots of people think they can't do anything, Heather. What is something simple somebody could start doing every day?
Just refuse single-use plastics. Refuse a straw if you don't need a straw. Refuse a plastic bag if you don't need it. Refuse a water bottle if you can drink from your tap, which we can. We have clean, safe drinking water here in Miami-Dade County. You can drink from the tap. So just starting to refuse plastics that you don't necessarily need. It's convenience, right? Do you need it? And if you don't need it, refuse it. That's the number one, simplest, easiest thing people can start doing right now.
Is that
today.
a mantra of the department, or something you where is that?
That's just
personal.
It's a personal, yeah.
I just don't want that.
I don't want
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah,
Right.
No, thank you. I don't need it. Here's a straw. No, I don't need it. I can drink from the cup. Do you want a plastic bag and you have one item that you can carry out? No, I don't need it.
I've been involved with raising birds for many years. So I pay particular attention to what birds go after. And a tiny little piece of plastic and that little tiny bird, right, can kill them in a heartbeat. Just rip their intestines, rip their throat, rip their stomach, right?
There's pictures of seabirds that have unfortunately been deceased, have died, and their carcasses have started rotting away on the beach. It's pretty depressing, but if you look what's inside, it's just a bunch of little pieces of plastic. It's little lids, it's little microplastics. And yes, so what you're saying, there is a visual there and you can see it, and it's been documented.
So the person that rolls down their window and tosses something out the window, what do you have to say to them?
I say,
be nice.
Keep it until you get home. Keep it until you get to a place that you can throw it away. It can sit in your car. Right. It's not affecting you.
We've had the folks from the waste management department. Times I'm understanding that whole process a little bit better. And so the other day yesterday, I said, now, is this for recycle or is this in the garbage? But I'm much more aware of it than ever before. That's because of an education process. Right. So would you tell us, speaking of animals, you have two things in front of you. You actually have three, but one on either side. It looks like a skull. Yes. And then
So this is a sea turtle skull. This is a green. It's a green sea turtle skull. And green sea turtles, it is sea turtle nesting season right now. So our Miami-Dade County Sea Turtle Conservation Team is out early in the morning surveying and looking for mamas who have come and laid her nests on the beach. But the green sea turtle is 100% herbivorous as an adult. And they do lay nests here on our beaches here in Miami-Dade. They come a little later. Right now we're seeing some leatherback activity and some loggerhead sea turtle activity on our beaches. But sea turtle nesting season starts in May, a little earlier for the leatherbacks. They tend to come end of March, early April, and we'll go all the way through October. So even more of a reason to keep our beaches healthy and clean for these mama sea turtles coming to lay their nests and ensuring that their offspring make it to the ocean and become full-fledged adults. So we want to keep our coastlines healthy for them.
And don't touch them.
And don't touch them.
Touch them.
All activities with sea turtles must be permitted through the state, through FWC. So if you see a sea turtle that you think needs help, or you see hatchlings that might need assistance, do not touch them. You can call the Miami-Dade Sea Turtle Conservation team, or you can call FWC and they will contact the Miami-Dade Sea Turtle Conservation team.
In case people forget what that number is, what number could they dial?
Yes.
1-888-404-FWCC.
Now you have something else over there to your right.
So this is just a piece of coral. It's a piece of stony coral. And the reason we have coral here is because a lot of times coral is one of our big economic drivers, believe it or not, here in Miami-Dade County, because here in the state, we have the only living reef tract in the continental United States. Only living reef tract in the continental United States, not in the entire United States, because that would include Hawaii. But continental, Florida has the only living reef tract, and it's actually the third largest barrier reef tract in the world. And lots of people pay money to come out and see our coral reefs. But not only are coral reefs important for our economy, they're important for our health because they provide homes to a wide variety of marine life that we consume or that we go out and fish recreationally. They're also the first layer barrier of protection when we get extreme storms. These corals can help break up wave height and wave strength before waves even come and affect our coastline. So it's important that we support healthy coral reefs.
Wow, Edward, she knows her stuff.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I mean, that coral, they're facing a lot of other stressors, disease. There's a huge disease called stony coral tissue loss disease that's gone all the way down from the top of the reef tract, which is like Jupiter, all the way down to the Florida Keys. And so, with that, there's a lot of restoration efforts here in South Florida. There's actually restoration efforts that you can get involved in as a snorkeler or diver through University of Miami. But really with those, I mean, Heather mentioned a lot of those benefits. They're also important. There's a lot of pharmaceutical research. So they're looking into, cures for cancer. It could be found on a coral reef. And like Heather said, I mean, this is an important resource for us, not just in Florida, but the whole United States. It's the only one that you can find here in the United States. So it's a treasure that we want to preserve.
And if people want more information, you can find out what else we have.
Yeah.
So give us some social media addresses.
So follow us, MiamiDade Parks. Follow EcoAdventures at Miami EcoAdventures. Programs that we have in the Parks Department. Volunteer opportunities can be found at ParkLink, which is MiamiDadeParks.com. Our nature centers are open from 9 to 5. Our trails for you to explore on your own. We have Zoo Miami open, Deering Estate open. All of our parks are open and ready for you to come out, explore, get healthy, get fit, and connect to nature and de-stress. That's really important.
And we want people to share this video. Right?
Share.
Okay.
Share.
So, Edward, tell us about the Bill Sadowski Park and what's going on there.
So at Bill Sadowski Park, we actually have opportunities to get out into, Heather mentioned the zoo. We have a zoo kayak. So we actually go out into the habitats that surround the zoo, the pine rockland, which is an endangered habitat here in South Florida. And we're running those tours monthly. And then we also have private tours available as well. So you can reach out, you can do a kayak tour, you can do archery. We have a lot of options there on there at Bill Sadowski. And it's a great facility that they just added a bunch of new features to. So go check them out at Bill Sadowski.
Yeah, we have our animal ambassador collection there, and you can also do kayak rentals there. Just call ahead to reserve your space for kayak rentals.
And for those people, all right, that don't know where it is 175th Street and 79th Avenue.
Palmetto Bay.
Palmetto Bay.
Right before the Deering
And
Estate.
you offer private tours. Do you know the phone number?
It's 305-255-4767.
Wow. Very good. Okay. So, and for those folks that are afraid of snakes, of which a lot of people are, they could actually look at one behind glass, or they could show their kids that they're not afraid of snakes.
Or
right?
they can get over their fear of snakes and just go ahead and touch one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate over the last couple of months to have some frogs jumping all over. We've had a red-tailed boa. We've had a hognose here.
Yes.
We had a couple other snakes. We have a couple people that really love animals. We're delighted, that
We've
you're
added
able
to
to
the
do
list.
that. Yes.
Now we
And so
brought the
now,
ocean
yeah,
to you.
these are real critters too.
We started from the west moved all the way east to the ocean.
One of the things I've noticed about county staff, the enthusiasm is just tremendous. Right? I mean, we've had Dr. William, what's his name, Tommy? Petrie from mosquito control.
Mhm.
Frank Calvarone has been here. Monique has been here. We have the folks from public, from about 5 departments. The enthusiasm, mosquito control, drain and cover. See, I learned drain and cover. All right. The enthusiasm, all right, that I see is tremendous. And we had the animal service division here several times, bringing their little critters here, the little dog and the little cats. And the enthusiasm, the passion for serving the public and doing something that's really great is just really wonderful to see that.
We're here for you.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. That's why we have jobs. We're public servants, and we're proud and happy to do it.
And we've missed you too. So it's really been a tough year, and we love engaging with you guys. So we're really excited to be back out and doing programming with the community.
So what's the next thing somebody could do to be more engaged? Coming up next Saturday.
Next Saturday at Crandon Park, our citizen, this Saturday actually at Crandon Park, our citizen science beach cleanup, where you can come out and clean the beach, learn a little bit about the marine debris that's affecting our coastlines, and help maybe spark some policy changes within the county.
And after people do that, they'll be more mindful of how they dispose of their debris.
They'll refuse.
Reduce, reuse, refuse, recycle, and repurpose.
Wow.
There's 5 R's. That's
Okay.
the mantra that you were asking about
Yes.
earlier.
There you
Yeah.
are. Again, we're going to wrap it up in a minute. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look right into the camera. We'll start with you, Edward, about a young person, and they're looking to the future now that the pandemic's just about over. Talk to them about their future, if you would, for a minute.
So the future is in your hands. You have the opportunity, you have the tools to, really contribute to a better world for not just us, but for yourselves. It can start with a cleanup. It could be just learning about these places and how, unique they are and how special they are, and making those small changes, talking to your friends, engaging with them on social media, and finding ways as a collective to work towards addressing these issues and teaching, the older generations that, it's not too late and that they can do, just the same thing that you're doing and help make this planet a little bit cleaner and better for us and for these critters.
Thank you very much. There's some little girl looking at you right now. So let's hear it.
Really, the most important thing that you have to realize is the future is bright and you have a voice, and don't let anyone say you don't have a voice. I think one of the best things young people can do is realize that there's a lot of opportunity in local government, and to really understand your local government, your county government, and if you live in a city, your city government, because connecting and being involved on a local level can spark a lot of change, and you have a voice. And I think now more than ever, we've seen how the voices of young people are really helping to shape thought and shape change throughout the country. So stay informed, get involved, and find an action plan. Make yourself an action plan and commit to it, and you can make big changes.
Heather Tedlow and Edward Pritchard, thank you very much for making a difference. Again, brought to you by the MiamiDade Parks and Recreation and Open Spaces.
That's
Folks, have a great day. And Tommy, thank you for the show.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
later.